The New York Mets, the hottest team in baseball. They're back 7 in a row. They're a game and a half up on the Philadelphia Phillies. They sweep the Giants. They sweep the Angels. What a weekend in San Francisco. You're watching Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Live. Smash that thumbs up on this video, please. Subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 2,000 subscribers. We're almost there, folks. So keep hitting that subscribe. We're at 1,913 as I record this Monday afternoon. So 87 more from 2,000 thanks to DraftNet Mark. Friday's show did great, so I appreciate that. And scan that code right there to become a Mets Daily Insider member. A lot of exclusive content, especially with trade deadline, weekend video, weekly watch party, giveaway at the end of the month. So make sure you're locked in a Mets Daily. Become an insider. Just $5 cheaper than a cup of coffee. Scan that code and follow me right there. At Jake Brown Live. All right, well, a great weekend, guys. This is what you need. Gregory Soto, he had his Mets debut after the Mets traded for him. Love the trade. You give a number 19 prospect and a guy not in your top 30 in Foster. I thought it was a no-brainer. Arsenio has good stuff. He throws gas, but he's still in single A, still a project, still a long ways away. Gregory Soto is what he is. He gets lefties out. Lefties are hitting 133 this season against Soto, and now you have Soto and Soto. You got the law firm in Queens, and you know, I want Danny Coulomb. I want someone better, but the reality is he may not be available. He may not want to come here. Another team may have a better package. So I think it was important that the Mets got one arm. They're still going to add more. They're not done. That was one arm. You're going to add another, probably a righty now. Ryan Helsley would be tremendous. He throws 102. He's one of the best relievers in the game. Cardinals looking like they might be sellers. That's got to be your guy, but you got your lefty. Brooks Raley has been incredible. Raley, Soto, you got your lefties. Edwin Diaz, again, fantastic over the weekend. Making us sweat a few times with Alonso's catch on Saturday. And then Sunday night, another bit of a sweat as he loaded the bases, but he gets out of it. He always makes us sweat. And, Ronnie Mauricio, the big story on Sunday, 4-for-4 day. First 4-for-4 game. He has the home run that ties it. Splash Mountain in right field. And then Juan Soto goes the other way to put the Mets ahead. Mets get insurance in the ninth with Brandon Nimmo, an RBI double. That started with a Mauricio hit. And again, Diaz closed the door. And I think Ronnie playing well is making it, kind of tough here for the Mets, but kind of easy as well when it comes to Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos, and by the way, I forgot to... The Mets did sweep the Giants and swept the Angels, and I'm now the Swiffer guy. So let's just sweep the Angels, sweep the Giants out of town, swift them out of town. Mark Vientos, he's the subject of a lot of trade talk today and this week. I think the Mets have to trade him for the right package. I don't think they should trade this guy just to trade him. And I know a lot of Mets fans... They're not going to be happy. A lot of lady Mets fans aren't going to be happy if the Mets do trade this guy. But the reality is, Mark Vientos, you're a one-dimensional player. You're slow as molasses. You don't play good defense. And you came into this season with all the hoopla in the world and have been dreadful. And, the postseason last year could only carry you so far. Now, I'm not saying your career's over. I think you're still a good player. But what the Mets have, and I'm talking to a bobblehead, right now. So me and Mark are just having a moment. When the Mets have Ronnie Mauricio doing what he's doing, when the Mets have Luis Angel Acuna who has speed and defense, when the Mets have Brett Beatty who has outplayed you, and, I know you guys are good friends, but has beaten you out, it's hard to keep four guys who play the same position. You only play one in DH, and the Mets have other DH options. They have Jesse Winker, who's hurt. They have Starling Marte, who's tearing the cover off the ball, and they might still add another bat here. So really, you're a third baseman, and the Mets have three other guys that can play that position who have outplayed you. So the reality is he should be traded to a team that will play him every day, that he can be an everyday player, whether it's third baseman or DH. All right, I can't keep looking at a bobblehead. That's out of control. The reality is, he'll get a chance to play somewhere, but it's just not a fit here. But I also don't think you should trade him for Luis Robert Jr. Everyone's talking about Luis Robert. Does that deal make sense? Robert is an expiring contract. Everyone tweeted me, no, he has two options. You think I don't know that? I know he has two options. His options are $20 million a year. He would be paid as high as any center fielder besides Mike Trout in the entire sport. You can't pay Luis Robert as high as anyone in the sport. Not saying he's not a good player, but he has sucked for 2 years. And the other years he hasn't been healthy. He's been healthy and good for 1 year. 2 years ago, all-star, 38 homers, no denying how good he was. He does steal bases still now, which is a great sign. But I don't know if a change of scenery is changing him. Yes, it worked for Andrew Vaughn. Everyone's like, look what happened with Andrew Vaughn. It doesn't happen with everyone. It's not just like Sandy Alcantara, if the Mets get him. You think he's just going to go from a 7 ERA to shutouts left and right? You don't just go to a new place and light up the world. That rarely ever happens. So, listen, if Luis Robert comes here and lights up the world the next 2 months and has an incredible October, fine, pick up his option. But David Stearns is not giving Luis Robert $20 million next year. They will pay the $2 million opt-out, or they'll get the White Sox to pay it in the trade, and that's that. But don't trade this guy for 2 months of Luis Robert in the hope that he is a change of scenery candidate and gets to the player he was 2 years ago. If you're trading Luis Robert, you got to have someone guaranteed for me that's going to be good in October, that is going to be a part of this postseason roster and make an impact. And that's probably a starting pitcher. That is a frontline starting pitcher. And I'm not just saying Vientos. It'll probably be a package of players. But either that or an outfielder is going to be here a few years that guaranteed. Like Steven Kwan. If the Guardians said, hey, we want Mark Vientos and Brandon Sproat for Steven Kwan, if you're the Mets, you should do that trade. Steven Kwan is an all-star outfielder. He's got 2 more years under contract for not a lot of money. That makes sense. If you can go get Steven Kwan for a lot cheaper than you would pay Luis Robert, I'd rather that because I don't know if Robert is going to be a change of scenery candidate and be a star again. I know Mark Luino talked about his upside. I'm not against Luis Robert. I'm not for trading Vientos for him. Even for all the reasons I said of the Mets have 4 third basemen, I think you'd be selling low on Mark Vientos. And I do think he's a good enough player to at least put in a package to get you someone better than that. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you want to keep Vientos? Of the 4, is he the guy you want to keep? I don't know how you think about trading Ronnie Mauricio. I'm not against trading Beatty or Acuna either. So if one of those guys go and you keep Vientos, fine. I just think you got to think about all-around game. And of the 4 players, the guy with the worst defense and worst speed is Mark Vientos. And for as good of a year as he had, he's really going to be a DH in this league most likely. So we'll see where he goes. But if you trade him, do it for the right package. One guy who's reportedly the Mets are interested in, that kind of came out of left field and is really coming out of second base, Brandon Lowe from the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, this is a good player. This is a guy who hits for power, but he is a second baseman. He's played a little bit of corner outfield as well, but he's a second baseman and really a DH. So the question is this the guy you want to trade for? You see his numbers on the screen: 269, 19 homers, 50 RBIs, and 800 OPS. I like him. If this is not a crazy deal with the Rays potentially being sellers, I'm not against getting him. And remind me of his Lowe. Brandon Lowe. Was an all-star this year. He was an all-star back in 2019. This is a guy who hit 39 and 99 in 2021. 21 homers in 107 games last year. 21 homers in 109 games the year before. He's a consistent power hitter in this league. Now, he's never really played a full season outside of 2021 with 149 games. So there are some injury concerns. He is injured right now. There is the expectation that he should be back by the weekend. He's due Wednesday to come back. So if the Mets find that this injury isn't serious with him, I'm not against it. If their idea is, hey, we're not going to get a center fielder, we're going to put Jeff McNeil in center, we're going to completely move on from him at second and have Lowe play second base, then it makes sense. If that's what they think. Now, center field's still going to be a problem. If McNeil's your everyday center fielder and you're still going McNeil-Taylor, I don't love it. But if you go Lowe at second, you got Ronnie at third, Beatty DH, or vice versa. You have Marte, Still, and Winker at DH. There's a bunch of options you can do. I don't hate getting him, but I prefer getting a center fielder. But he's an all-star. He's a good hitter. I'm intrigued if the Mets can get this done. What do you guys think? Should the Mets trade for Brandon Lowe? Brandon Lowe is like the word now rather than the common low. It rhymes with Lao. Now, Lao. Lao. Low. Lao. No. Low. I'm done. Rhymes with now. Lao. Lowe, Brandon Lowe, Lowe, now Lowe, Lowe, now Lowe, Lowe. It's Brandon Lowe. Jesus Christ. It was a long weekend, folks. I was at Savannah Bananas, Lady and the Tramping, a banana dog with Joey Chestnut, the legend. Check that out at Jake Brown Live. But I would do this deal if it doesn't cost you much. I'm intrigued. You know, he's a consistent power hitter. I'm not against it. So it is Lowe, Brandon Lowe. And his contract situation, for those asking, he has a club option for next year for $11.5 million. That is not terrible if you picked up the club option, or you can buy him out for $500,000. So either $500,000 buyout, or you pay him $11.5 million to be probably your starting second baseman next year, and you either have McNeil in center, or you try and trade McNeil, who has 1 year left on his deal. So let us know in the comments. Do you make a move with him? Do you trade Vientos? What do you do? I'm Jake Brown. I need a nap, everyone. Thanks for watching Mets Daily. Subscribe, smash that thumbs up. Lots of trades this week. We'll talk all about it right here on Mets Daily. We'll talk to you tomorrow.